Hello and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be covering Pacenotes. They can seem quite simple at first, but as I learned in my last game, if you don't know what you're doing, it can be quite a mess. So if you're new to my channel, I'm working on a game called Blox 2. Now, obviously this is a sequel to my last game, Blox, which is a rally game. That game did have Pacenotes, but I'm not going to act like the implementation was very good. In fact, I'm not going to act like it was good at all. Hairpin right. Straight. Hairpin left. 2 right. 3 right. Acute left. The more I work on Blox 2, the more the original game looks a lot like a first-time coding project. And that's because in a lot of ways it was. There's a lot of stuff I didn't know how to do. As with most of my work, I learned along the way. Now that helped me get the game out, but that meant there was a lot of stuff that just wasn't very good. The Pacenote system included. Now, why might that be? The biggest reason is because I just tried to copy directly off of Dirt Rally 2 and Dirt Rally's Pacenote system, and that is generally a pretty basic form of Pacenotes, but when you first start learning how to do them, and you just kind of go in and start doing stuff, the result usually isn't very pretty, as proven in the original game. Now let's cover why it didn't turn out very good. Now, one of the big things is I did have an audio system for the last game, which would play the right amount of turning, and it would also show a little text box, and that would say what type of turn it was. But it was actually pretty inconsistent, and the order that it would be said technically wasn't right, and the Pacenote system would be right as you're going into a turn. And when you combine that with the bar of soap handling, it was kind of a recipe for disaster. Now I want to give a big thanks to Real Fox Gamer for prototyping the original system. The original system is what made me work on this, and I have since overhauled, but the base layout of it is the same. Now, as discussed earlier, one of the big issues with the original game's Pacenote system is that it was a bit too complex for me to be able to do, and this created many issues. But with this system, it's a lot more simple, and this allows me to put the right Pacenote for the right type of turn a much greater amount of the time. This means you can be a bit more confident on what the turn actually is than the past game. This overhaul also included a much better looking UI than the original game. With the original game, it would just be some text on a little box. This was not very helpful, as it would be quite difficult to read at times when you're trying to focus on driving. So now it's just arrows with color matching the, aggressiveness of the turn. But there's still more under the hood that you might not notice in the game now, which is very different from the last game. The biggest thing being how I handled getting the Pacenotes themselves. In the last game, it was a bit of a mess. No, it was a really big mess. Essentially, how I did it is I had an individual remote event per each turn. Then I had a thing which would fire each remote event based on each turn. Now, this is not an issue in of itself. The biggest issue is that I would get it from each and every different part. Now, this means I had to name everything a unique thing, and I had to manually set up it to get each and every one. Now, what it's doing now is it uses collection service to get all of the parts that I have inside of a model or a folder, and then it will tag those parts, and then when any of those parts are touched, it'll check the name of the part that was touched, and then it will tell the UI to put on the arrow that corresponds with that turn. This means I can name multiple parts, say S, and that's straight, and I don't have to do S1, S2, S3, S4, S5, S6. You can see how that can be a bit of a problem. And this also means that I don't have to manually hard code in each and every turn, saying, oh, when S1 is touched, fire straight. When S2 is touched, fire straight. And this makes it so much easier to add pace notes and just have them work instantly. Now, I'm not saying that the current system is without issues. It certainly has some problems. First of all, it never, it doesn't have a debounce, saying that when this is touched, wait this between touching the next one. This means that you can touch a thing multiple times a second and it will replay the animation UI, which isn't good. So I need to implement that, but that's a small fix that really won't take very long. There were also a few things that came along when I was developing it. For example, I forgot to anchor a lot of the parts on everything past the first stage. So this meant I had to do a lot of debugging that really wasn't necessary to figure out why the parts were not actually triggering the UI. But yes, Rally Blox 2 now has pace notes. This might not seem like a very big thing, but it makes me feel one step closer to being able to push out an alpha. Anyways, that wraps up today's short video. See you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and bye!